Good evening and welcome to the program, the first U.S. report of 2025 and the last U.S. report of the Biden administration. I know, right? But yes, for another day or two, Joe Biden is still technically the president of the United States. And it turns out that right up to the end, he is still the same old Joe. By which I mean he is bitter, confused, hypocritical, angry that he lost an election he still thinks he could have won, and unable to get through a speech without tripping over his tongue. Now, a little over 24 hours ago, Biden gave his farewell address from the Oval Office. And I think I speak for many when I say, don't let the door hit you on the way out, Mr. President. Why? Well, check this out. Here's Joe Biden, the man who got his start in politics essentially by representing Delaware Incorporated credit card issuers, and who has built a startlingly fine real estate portfolio on a public servant's salary, worrying about the concentration of wealth and power in American politics.
I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked.
Now, you don't have to be Nancy Drew to realize that this was a shot at people like Elon Musk. But remember, this guy, Joe Biden, well, just a week or so ago, he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to George Soros via his son Alex. Soros is a guy who has used his billions to interfere in politics around the globe. Oh, but of course that was okay because he's an oligarch supporting left-wing causes like forcing Europe to accept mass migration from the developing world and getting soft-on-crime prosecutors elected across the United States, turning America's cities into crime-ridden hellholes. So again, well, that's okay. But hey, God forbid a man like Musk wants to go to Mars and let people say what they want on social media. Anyway, speaking of hypocrisy, Biden also had this to say.
People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules. Pay their fair share of taxes.
This is great. He actually said that everyone should pay their fair share of taxes when, you guessed it, tortured artiste Hunter Biden was sitting right there in the room. It is truly amazing that Biden managed that with a straight face. But speaking of saying things that are laughable, Biden also used his farewell address to obsess over social media and their lack of fact-checkers.
Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit.
Well, I mean, where do we start with that? Does Joe Biden think the government should have an official Department of Truth? No, don't laugh, because actually that's kind of practically what we did have under the Biden administration. Yes, the same guy, Joe Biden, who very possibly only won the presidency in 2020 because the government heavied social media companies into squelching the story about his son's laptop, which was full of drug use and dodgy Biden business deals, stuff that everyone now acknowledges was true, but which was treated at the time officially by all these intelligence agencies as Russian misinformation because of dodgy CIA contractors and 51 former intelligence officials who'd been whipped up by the Democrats to discredit it. Well, back then, Biden's vaunted fact-checkers said that whole laptop was misinformation, and they heavied the social media companies into doing their bidding and even locked the New York Post, which broke the story, out of its social media accounts until the paper retracted, which they didn't do. Now, for all of that history, Biden has the temerity to lecture us about lies and misinformation and facts? Honestly, literally, the entire Democrat political machine is based on censorship because they know if you think what you want to think and say what you want to say, you're not going to vote for them. And Joe Biden wants to lecture us about the truth? No, sorry. And also, let's move on. Speaking of the truth, well, you knew this was coming. He also blamed the California wildfires on, yeah, well, you know.
So much is at stake. Right now, the existential threat of climate change has never been clearer. Just look across the country, from California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant climate and clean energy law ever in the history of the world.
Well, I don't know if it's climate change or not, but one thing I do know is that the Democrats running California at every level of government have tragically failed. And what I don't understand is why people who claim to think that climate change causes fires, like California's Democrats, well, they haven't seemed to have done a lot of the obvious things that would go along with that belief set. Like, you know, keeping reservoirs full and fire hydrants functioning. Honestly, look, the whole Biden speech was of a piece with the rest of Joe Biden's farewell tour of recent days. From his self-pitying claim that he could have won the election, oh yeah, I could have been a contender, to his belief that he was the one who orchestrated the now shaky-looking ceasefire deal in the Middle East. But whatever his mental decline may look like, this is still the same Biden that has always been. We've always seen him, we've always known him to be angry, bitter, a bully, you know, a jerk. And after 4 years of that, I say good riddance.